Good morning. It's Monday, May 11th. I believe that's today, the date. And it's funny, I was just had the cards and the devil card popped out. So for me, the devil card is a representation of fear. We've got to step into what makes us afraid this week. We have to. The devil card just flew out of the deck, and it's so funny when you watch tarot readers, they're like, oh, the cards fly out of the deck, right? And they do sometimes, and the devil card comes in. So this is Capricornian energy also. So there's a feeling that this week there's a lot of there's going to be some really crazy kind of, I'm going to call it crazy energy, because we're moving into a bunch of planets in retrograde. Venus is going into retrograde. Saturn just went into retrograde. Jupiter just going into retrograde. Pluto is in retrograde. There's a bunch of planets that are going into retrograde. And the fact that this card falls out of the deck before I even basically started the reading is to make sure that you're staying on your course. And now this has been something that I've been talking about, and this has been something that, light workers, astrologers have been talking about. You need to be making decisions that are best for your heart and best for what you know to be true about yourself, and not being in the space of fear. And if you're triggered by fear, which is the devil, to check yourself and stay in alignment. Capricorn energy, to me, the way that I align with it is a very check yourself energy. And so it's a good ally to have. It's the challenge is when we collapse into it, or when we let the fear take over. That's when it becomes the devil, you see. So there's this message to make sure that you're continuing to choose. And if you haven't chosen yet, if you're still on the line of should I stay or should I go, in whatever space you're in, whether we're talking about relationships, personal relationships, whether we're talking about career relationship, something about relationship with yourself, wanting to move forward in a specific way. If you haven't made that decision yet, you got to do it now, right now, today. And I'm not usually that kind of a person that's you got to do it now. I'm pretty much, follow your heart, trust your intuition. But this energy right now, because Venus is going in retrograde tomorrow, if you haven't done what you have been needing to do, you got to do it now. Most of us who've been doing the work have already made those decisions. So I've been knowing about this energy it first started at the end of in December, when there was the eclipse, and there was the message to you've got to, if you're not digging the relationships that you're in, you need to get out of them. Otherwise you're going to be stuck. So that's what this energy is. If you don't make this decision now, if you haven't gotten out of a relationship, or you haven't gotten out of a business decision, or a career that you've needed to get out of, do it now. And I'm saying that from a space of meaning that you know what you need to do. If you've been feeling that you've been needing to do it and you keep putting it off because you're afraid, do it now. So now that's only if you feel that it's something that's been just gut wrenching, or that you've been wanting to do that you haven't been doing, that you needed to say something to someone. If you've already done that, which a lot of us have intuitively, because if we allow ourselves to be in cycles, we'll actually kind of do things cyclical without even knowing it, because we're connected. And so we let ourselves move with the cosmos and with the earth energy. So if you've already done that, but you haven't come forward yet. So I'll tell you, for instance, for me personally. So I have I've released a lot of relationships, and I have some, my relationship karma, I'll call it, or patterns of behavior with lovers, men, is that I tend to choose neglectful type of men because of the history that I have. So I've released all of that. What's really interesting is I've done a lot of release work around my relationships with men, and that becomes an archetype, right? I understand that it has nothing to do with these men specifically. It's a generalized energy, and they become symbolic for my healing, right? And so as I do that, these crazy motherfuckers, excuse my French, are coming out of the woodwork. So if you've ever done release work around people and then they come out, like they've come back, it's because they're feeling your release. So you have to keep moving forward. It's not a sign like, oh, maybe I should get back together with him. No, it's because he's feeling, and me specifically, as I'm telling myself, like, no, do not go back. There's nothing there for you. It's because he's feeling that, right? And it's not conscious. It's all this is all subtle energy. And so if he feels this, oh, wait, there's a disconnect from the lineage that I have or the karma that I have, I need to grab that and pull it back. I need it. So I have to continue to move forward. If someone's reaching out to you after you've done release work, it is not a sign to go back. It is a sign that the release work is actually working. So continue to release, you see? So these releases that are happening, that's more important, the message that I'm getting from spirit, that's more important than what's happening next. Because like right now I don't have a person and I'm like thinking, knowing the astrology and listening to, my teachers and my mentors and things and talking about, this energy that we're moving into is going to be, Venus is going to be retrograde for 40 days and 40 nights. So does that mean like for 40 days and 40 nights, I'm not going to find my lover yet, quote unquote, or have that person come in? Probably yes, but that doesn't mean I'm going to be in that pattern and I'm stuck alone. Because I think sometimes what we'll do is we're afraid to make a release because we're afraid that there's nothing that's going to come in that's better to replace it, right? And then there's a feeling of emptiness. But if we understand that there's a law that says if you release something, the water finds its own level, right? So if you let go of something, something will take its place. And if you've been doing the work, it'll be better. It'll be what you've been desiring. It'll be what you've been imagining. So that's something that I have to remind myself of. And that's something that I want to give you is to say, the release is more important than what's happening next. What's happening next is going to it is already taking care of itself. Okay. So keep breathing. Interesting. I have a very excited energy today. I feel like there's a spirit vibration that wants to come through, that's very exuberant and enthusiastic and wanting to tell you, do not be afraid. Do not let the devil come in. And, I don't believe in the devil like below us and that we're going to go to hell or whatever. I believe that the devil is the fear, the voices in our head that hold us back, or people that show up in our lives that hold us back, or people that show up in our lives, or things that show up in our lives that trigger fear and that we succumb to the fear. So don't succumb to your fears. And you know what they are. Remembering also, because I am feeling it's a little bit of a shallow breath, I just want to remind people that taking a deep breath in and exhaling and doing it a couple times and doing it very, very like nurturing, like don't go, do it in a really like loving, like I love this breath that I'm taking in. And then as you release, the oxytocin, dopamine, and the other beautiful hormones will surge throughout the body and allow for your system to physiologically relax. And then your mind doesn't race so much. Because what happens too is as I'm saying this, right, I'm saying, you got to make your decision now. You got to do this now, right? That's a stress-inducing proclamation, isn't it? Especially for the person who's been afraid, right? If I'm afraid to make that decision, and then I'm looking at this woman who's telling me I have to make this decision now, of course it's going to be triggered, and only the decisions that are best for you and the ones that you need to make. So the goal is to get into the heart-centered space, and we get to heart-centered space through understanding that that's divinely feminine, and recognizing that divinely feminine is oxytocin and dopamine. Divine masculine is adrenaline and cortisol and right. We don't want to. We especially as women, the nature of woman is to be in that space. The nature of man is to be more in adrenalized state. But I believe if we can have balance, then we're like golden. Okay, so remembering that this week, that through all of these crazy ups and downs, because I do feel that this week energetically is going to be pretty crazy up and down collectively. and also in the microcosm of your small little corner of the world, in the way that you are aligning with it. Just notice the energy, notice how you're feeling internally, and then remember to breathe. I think what's beautiful about the collective is that we are moving forward. It's a very messy. Yeah, it's a very messy place to be. Like Edith, she's very messy right now. But she's still cute, right? We're can we find the beauty in the mess? Can we find can we have something that we can hold dear to us that enlightens us or brightens us, instead of glomming onto the bad news, right? We don't negate the bad news. We recognize and have reverence for everything that happens, and then can we hold dear to us what we can do something about, right? Does that make sense? What we can focus on. What are you going to choose to focus on? And that you can say a prayer for everything that's happening, and then allow yourself to move forward, and recognizing that, as we focus on self, then obviously self in the highest regard, then we do better for the planet and for everyone around us. So let's pull tarots. I do shuffle these, you guys. It's funny, I watched this astrologer, I talk about him, David Palmer, and he has like hundreds of thousands of followers. I mean, I think he just hit 100,000 on his YouTube. He's been doing it for a really long time. And people talk so much smack, like saying that he doesn't shuffle or that he pulls. The devil card came out again. Oh my God, that's so funny. The talking smack, the devil. So there's no reason there's no agenda for someone who's reading cards to pull a card and go, oh, I'm going to get the devil card, and then I'm going to tell you this, and then this is what's going to happen. A person, I think that's important to recognize. Like, a person who does this kind of work, who's legit, and authentic, and of course there's people that are kind of whatever. I believe that those people aren't going to last. They don't last very long, because most humans get it and will be like, I'm just not going to watch that person. But then there's, the trolly kind of jerky kind of person that has to come in and say something negative just to, get a rise, right? And he's really funny because he goes into it, like he's Leo, and so he's got this, and I kind of like, I'll skirt around it. I don't want to deal with that kind of crap, but I do think it's important for you guys, for everyone who's listening, or anybody who checks out people who they're just doing what they do. There's no point in me going, oh, I'm going to put the devil card over here, and then it's going to fly out again. I'm going to pretend like it's going to fly out. No. None of that serves this. So if you don't think that person is like that, then use your discernment and stop watching them. Don't make, asshole remarks. Excuse my French. Don't be this either. This energy is low vibration. It's trolly. It's, look at what they're doing. And, and it's comparison for comparison's sake in a negative way. Like if I look at them and see how, look how fat she is, then I somehow feel better about myself that I'm not as fat as she is, or look at how old she is. Like, these are the things that I hear in my voice, my own head. Most people are going to watch Stacy and they're going to say she's fat, or her boobs are so big, and like, whatever. She's old. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Like, those are the reasons why I wouldn't get on. And that happens. It's so interesting. It happens literally right while I'm setting up the camera. Like, oh, they don't want to hear me. And I better change my shirt. Like, all that is this. Because at the end of the day, it's not about me. It's not about the wrinkles on my face. It's not about the way my hair is not done, or the way my whatever. It's about the message, right? And what spirit wants to say. And that's the truth about this energy too, is like, what message do you want to bring to the world? What story do you want to tell? If you're in a space where you haven't been telling your story, meaning that you haven't been expressing your life in the way that you desire to express it, the time is now. Okay, and the devil card came out twice. So it's very, very like, there's very, and recognizing in the tarot that the devil card is Capricorn, and and I know Capricorns are like, like I wouldn't want to be the devil in the tarot deck, but what we understand about that is it's also Capricornian energy is very, very, well, there's resiliency to it. And there's this idea of we're going to keep going. We're going to do this. We're going to keep climbing the mountain and we're going to get to the top, whatever it takes. So to understand that it feels sort of like a denser kind of energy. It's earthy, that we can use that earth energy to allow ourselves to move forward and get out of the mind chatter of fear, which is what I was saying is a representation of the devil, right? And recognize and use the energy towards its good, that it's a good energy to get things done. And the things that you do last, right? It's like building a house on bricks instead of sand, right? So the things that you do now, as you continue to move forward, and it may feel a little bit weird because again, these planets are going retrograde and there's this kind of, it kind of feels like, right? Just keep going, right? Do you remember when you're a kid and we used to take baking soda and water and was it baking soda or cornstarch? One or the other. I think it might've been cornstarch. And you put water in it, and if you put your finger in it slowly, it moves, right? And if you moved it slowly, it would move. And if you hit it hard or fast, it would stop, right? You know, it's really funny. This is a really funny story. I have a friend that lives in Northern Kentucky. She's from here and she moved to Northern Kentucky. And one of her friends for her birthday one year, crazy dude, gets this, he rented like a trailer. It was probably 6x6. And got a shit ton of corn. I think it's cornstarch, right? Whatever it was that makes that cornstarch, and filled up this trailer. And we got in the trailer, and the challenge was to go fast enough where you didn't sink, right? So to understand, understanding when, if you use the tools that you have and you understand the nature of what you're doing, then you can manipulate it, right? So the challenge was to stay on top of it. But for me, what I was seeing in the analogy of this, of the way that the water and the cornstarch move, is that that's Capricornian energy. So you want to recognize what you're moving with, what you have at your disposal, and work with it instead of trying to move against it. So if I want to have my finger being able to be inserted in the cornstarch, I know that I need to move slowly and methodically in order for me to manipulate the nature of these two combined elements, you see? And then if I wanted it, but I don't want resistance, right? It's interesting that the quickness or that causes resistance. So we want to move slow and more methodically. That'll get you through the week. Okay. So let's actually really pull some cards. Let's do 3 spread. So, what's the energy of this week? Interesting. So the Page of Swords comes in and he says, swords is, air, right? So, and he's very exuberant. So he wants to get things done. So he's saying, get the things done that you need to get done, cut away what needs to be cut away, which is exactly what I was telling you. You want to do it now, not waiting. This is not a card of wait till tomorrow. This is a message of do not procrastinate. Okay, and then let's see to get more clarity around that, around what are we not procrastinating, and remembering that you're setting intentions as I pull these cards for you for the questions. If take what works, leave what doesn't. Discernment, that is the Age of Aquarius. Okay, so here we go with, and I'm going to pull the third one too. So we recognize that by cutting away, what we're cutting away is our, the Two of Swords, which is, she's protecting herself. The challenge is that what she's protecting herself from is good. She's protecting herself from, she's not seeing what she does. It's almost the way that I align with this. I just heard she doesn't need her to protect herself. She's already cut away everything that if you cut away everything that doesn't serve you, then you don't need this kind of self-protection. So you've got to take the blinders off and look at, I was just watching Ozark. I binged watched that. And this is kind of like the mom's energy, right? I can't remember her name right now. Wendy's energy. And this is the son's energy if you've watched Ozark. So anyway, so the idea, if I'm getting rid of everything that I need to get rid of, then I don't need to bury my head in the sand. I don't need to false protect myself and not see the magic. You see? So these, by just doing what I just talked about at the beginning of the read, you are the magic, and you're able to do the magic by releasing this, right? So he gives us the opportunity to cut away what no longer works. Now remember, this is going to feel a little bit awkward because I was talking about that slow movement. That's why we wanted to do it today, because as the planets go retrograde, more of them, it's going to start to feel like that cornstarchy, watery thing that I'm talking about. So we want to take action ASAP to get out of this feeling so that we can be in our magic. And we're able to be in our magic through the retrogrades, through distorted energy, through plagues, through whatever, doesn't matter, right? That the magic isn't contingent on outward what's going on. If we can because this would be what would stop us. Like we project out what we think might stop us. That magic can't be stopped. And that's what the Page of Swords is saying. He's saying, let's cut through the bullshit and get to the magic. You see? Cool, right? So there's my mantra for the week. I'm cutting through the bullshit to get to the magic. And recognizing magic is not outside of me. It's not like, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat. It's the magic with a K, the magic of alchemy, the magic of creating my reality using the laws of the universe. And that's happening always, no matter what's going on outside. That's happening here, and that we can always count on that. All right, so take a deep breath in, get that oxytocin and dopamine. And then speaking of oxytocin and dopamine and feminine energy, I'm going to pull from the Goddess Power deck today. It's Colette Baron Reed's deck, another cool. She tends to be the one, if you follow me, you notice that her oracle decks are really the only ones I use. So let's see what Goddess Power has in store for Monday. And then I'll be back on Wednesday. Remember, if you have a question for the collective, DM me and I will answer it on my next live. And I'm going to put these, I'm now putting these on YouTube so that you can watch them. If you have friends that aren't on Instagram, you can share. There's a link in my bio. There's also free resources on my website. There's the link in my bio. So check that out. If you have any questions, again, always DM me, and I'm here for one-on-one sessions. It's really easy to book. You can just go to the link in my bio and go to my website, and you'll see you can schedule. Actually, I think right in the link tree, you can schedule a session if you like. So let's see what Goddess Oracle has in store. I have to put my glasses on. Rhea, Flow. Aren't they beautiful? Okay, so Flow. So we recognize and understand that just exactly what I was saying in regard to being in the flow there's the idea of flow itself means that it's something that we're in. Does that make sense? So we have a choice, right? Whether we want to be in the flow or go against the flow, and recognizing that flow is natural. So as we go with the flow, what does that mean for you? Can you go with the flow? Cut away what I'm resistant to, and I'm ready to go with the flow. So there's another mantra. I cut away anything that shows up as resistance. Cut away anything that shows up as resistance, and I go with the flow. So you can use that this week. I cut away anything that shows up as resistance and I go with the flow. And let's see what Rhea has to say. Empowerment message. Do you notice how... All right, let me start over. I'm being silly. Do you notice how when you're in alignment with the universe, everything in your life just seems to flow? The Greek goddess Rhea, whose very name means flow and ease, comes to let us know that you're entering such a time. While the flow state is not permanent for most people, it's a beautiful feeling that allows you to lose yourself in the rhythm. Now, see, I think that the flow state is there for us, but we choose not to be in it, you see? Because she says it's not there for everyone sometimes, but I think it's important to realize that it is there if you're choosing to be with it. While the flow state is not permanent for most people, it's a beautiful feeling that allows you to lose yourself in the rhythm. It is as if you're traveling down a magic stream where ideas and insights pour through you from a vast source of... Oh, I love myself. All right, let me start over. Sorry, guys. It's as if you're traveling down a magic stream where ideas and insights pour through you from a vast source of information that is gifted to you. That's magic to me. That's the idea of magic, that I'm in the flow and I'm allowing for it to, but it's moving through me, as me. The way to ensure you remain in this beautiful energy as long as you can is to observe life with relaxed attention. Listen to the guidance presented to you as you move forward without restraint or fixed ideas. So the fixed ideas was the Two of Swords. So you're moving through life without restraint or fixed ideas. You can enter a flow state anytime you're willing to release your expectations. The Devil also card can show up as expectations. When we're in ego, we recognize that expectations don't do much except for set us up for disappointment. So you can enter the flow state anytime you're willing to release your expectations. It requires trust, and the goddess Rhea ensures your boat will never capsize as you move from a slow stream to a rapid river. So that's a really cool message, understanding that in order for you to get the most out of life, and once you get in the flow, then you recognize that the flow is going to continue to move you forward. And as you remain in it, it builds momentum, and then you can move from the slow stream to a rapid river. And the rapid river, I would say, shows up, if a slow stream is status quo, right? The rapid river is new things that are coming into my life that show up as good. And we forget that things that show up as good manifestations, successes, cause just as much stress and resistance as things that show up in our life as negative or challenges. Because it's stressful. Anytime we're going into something that's unknown, of course it's going to elicit stress. So stay in the flow, trust the universe, trust whatever you have that you feel is in back of you, like meaning the universe, but also remembering angels and spirit guides, loved ones that have passed. I was just thinking, I have a lineage of wonderful male energy that has passed. I have grandparents and great-grandparents and a brother. I have a beautiful uncle. And I don't call on them in the way that I could. I'm getting emotional. And I was sitting in the backyard this weekend and I heard them like, dude, like, we're here for you. You can call on us. And what does that look like? Meaning just knowing that they're there and that they have your back. Call on your angels, call on your guides. What does that look like for you? Try it out and recognize that there's something deeper that we can connect with, and that will get us out of also that devil energy that may show up. The devil is the trigger. The devil is fear. And remember, it can also, fear is also our friend. Fear keeps us in line, right? I remember when I first started doing this work, when I became a hypnotherapist, actually, and I was learning about the subconscious mind, and wanting to overcome fear, wanting it to be not there anymore, right? I just wanted to get over it already. I knew that it was just subconscious programming, and that it was based in beliefs, and there's this notion that we're born with only two fears: the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. Everything else is learned. So if I'm afraid of these things, I should be able to get rid of them. But as I continue to do this work, and I was talking with Spirit about fear, and I heard this Spirit go, Stacy, fear is a necessary evil to be on the planet. Because if you didn't have fear, you would walk out in the middle of the street and you'd get hit by a car and you wouldn't be here anymore. So you have to have fear in order to survive. It's an aspect of survival. So if you can become friends with the fear and recognize where it's coming from, and is it true, right? That idea of the message of the Two of Swords, like, she's blocking herself because she's afraid, and she's not really even seeing what the truth is, because she's so afraid and she's so blocked off that she can't even allow herself to move through the fear. And the Page of Swords was saying, let's cut through that. Let's get to the magic, right? So to recognize that, and then again, going back to how do my guides and my brother and my uncle and my grandfathers and my dad, how do they show up in a way that they couldn't have even shown up on the planet, right? For me, that they're in back of me. Their energy is in back of me. It's almost as if they're holding me and they're allowing me to move forward and face my fear and move past it, whatever that looks like for me. So the guides, the angels, the goddesses, they're all here to help provide space for more, right? So I will be here again all week. You can watch this again on the replay. It'll be on TV, and it'll also be on YouTube, and DM me if you have any questions. And remember to use that energy of the Page of Swords today, because it's going to feel a little bit wonky towards the end of the week, towards the beginning of the middle of the week, if I can learn to talk. And then I will be here on Wednesday morning at 9:30 Pacific again. All right, see you then. Love you guys.